Hello and welcome to the fine edition of my... There's another recorder going on, Robert.
Yay!
See, what's funny about audio stuff, so people so go back to it. I was talking about whoever Jimmy Kimmel was. Thank you, audio people.
Yeah.
If I didn't have people watching, we'd never have a show. But at least give Jimmy Kimmel's the one that did the prank, right? Because I mix up Jimmy Kimmel and I mix up the other late night guy that like had people from Dig Nation and stuff like that.
Oh bloody hell! I can't remember.
I forget.
I don't watch TV, so I only know Jimmy Kimmel from the Man Show.
Oh God, that's right. Ziggy Zaggy, oi oi oi.
Yes.
How quickly did that go off the air?
Well, when him and Adam Carolla left,
right?
It was they.
How quickly did?
Well, there was a quick break,
right?
And then it was Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope, and then I think that
Jimmy Fallon is the one I think of. Jimmy Fallon. Thank you, Arctic Mill. Jimmy Fallon in the chat room is Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is the one. Anyways, but go back to.
But anyway, I think they did like 1 year with Rogan and Stanhope, and it just died.
Yeah,
it was not the same.
Like it because like it's
I only watched a little bit of it, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because thinking about that show, like that, there was a point in time on television where when you watch a show, that you know that is stuck in its time, and it will never ever escape. Like if you ever flip on like from the 80s, like something like fuck, what was that show with where it was the cousin from another country?
Oh, Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers. Yeah. Like, there's no way that leaves the 80s.
Well, kind of like my thing. You remember a while back when they were talking about bringing back Animaniacs?
Yes.
It was a fairly recent thing. And I'm like, please don't. and even though they were going to bring back some of the original, they were going to bring back all the original voice actors, my whole thing was, well, hold on, you're just going for the nostalgia hook.
Yeah.
You're not giving a chance to anything new.
And Animaniacs was such a strange one because, and I talked about this before, but it was a strange one in that the story wasn't that these characters were like Tiny Toons as a cartoon can only exist in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
There's no way it can exist out there because it took what the 90s were and personified it in a cartoon.
Oh yeah, there was like a few that were kind of like that. Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, Freakazoid.
Which Rocko, they're doing an interesting thing. We'll talk about that second.
Yeah.
But Artemil in chat room mentions, do you remember the Tomorrow People in the 80s? Which I don't think I remember.
I vaguely.
You might be.
I vaguely do. I don't think I watched a lot of it though.
I don't think I did either. If I did, but going back to Animaniacs, why it being a strange one is basically the story was these cartoon creations, the Animaniacs, were made in like the 20s. Yeah, like during the beginnings of Warner Brothers. That's why they have. That's why they can reference things like Jerry Lewis and have that and be so relevant somehow. Even though no one knows, no kid knows who Jerry Lewis. That's literally adults, and you learn that when you get older. But when they got put in the water tower, locked away until they escaped in the 90s, and then somehow they became a cartoon, which is why I've always liked them, because they seem to kind of transcend time, or they feel more Looney Tunes-ish.
And that was like the one thing I appreciated about it, and even like my own mom said something about this before, was even though it was a quote-unquote kids cartoon, it very much spoke to adults.
Right.
And there were some bits where like there'd be no way they could tell that joke now. But there was still some that's like I could still go watch it now and I'm entertained. Right. But I understand it is a product of its time.
Yeah, that's always the strange things when it comes to television, because I always have friends of mine, like right now coming in a weird era where we're now getting a new, like I think it got announced like last year, but we're getting this month, like by November, a new Hey Arnold movie. Yeah, but that's been a movie that they've wanted, like the creator wanted to work on, and actually teased it the last episode. Yeah. He just the first movie just didn't do well, so they said, "Fuck it, we ain't doing the second one." Yeah, and now it's nostalgic, so we can do it again, and we'll put a TV. But we're also doing a Rocko's Modern Life movie. Did you read the plot of that?
No, huh?
So I read the plot. It sounds kind of interesting. I don't know how it happens, but apparently Rocko and team gets shot into space in 1996. Don't come back down until modern era,
like 2018
until
or whatever.
2017 to 2018, and basically Heifer and Filbert like latch on immediately to social media, modern things, and all that crap. And Rocco's just like, I can't kind of handle all this yet.
So he's almost like Captain America from like the first movie in the Winter Soldier,
Which I kind of like the idea of Rocco being a man out of place
or
and
like
time.
Buck Rogers.
Right.
There's a throwback.
And two, I like the idea because apparently they're talking about the idea that Filbert and Heifer are like all about all the food trucks and stuff like that, and I kind of like that idea too.
Because we live in Austin.
Right,
yes.
I love a lot of these concepts of having Rocco like be confused that like certain things are not really quite there yet, and have Filbert and Heifer like, fuck it, and just like jump in, start tweeting and Instagramming their food and everything else like that. I love that as a potential commentary of society, because it's apparently talking about Simpsons and stuff like that. God, I forgot about Simpsons. But yeah, like it's weird. We're starting to come this point in time where all these kind of older stuff are coming back because people like have this sort of memory, like, oh, I remember when that was good. But there are some things like that I think can never leave their era, and I think going back to the Man Show, that cannot leave like the early 2000s. Like you could never do that again.
Actually, what's funny? So there was a photo shoot I did this past weekend. One of the people I was working with, we actually got to talking about Mel Brooks movies.
Right.
What started was History of the World Part 1, which everybody should go watch that.
Amazing film.
And then we got to talking about Blazing Saddles, which I actually watched that again not too long ago. And given that was made in 1974, it's actually it's weird, given the current climate now, how actually relevant it is to 2017.
It's funny, Mel Brooks as a director, as a comedian, as all the things he's been. It's funny how still goddamn hilarious his stuff is.
Oh God, I will. What I can't quote public. I will quote Blazing Saddles and History of the World all day. But here's the thing: Blazing Saddles would not get made in 2017.
No, not
at all.
No, not at all. There's certain things definitely would, but like I could. It's funny. Out of all the films he's done, I think my least favorite now is Men in Tights.
Really? I haven't watched that one all the way through, but I kind of now have a hard time getting through Spaceballs all the way through. I think it's because it's so steeped in Star Wars.
There's certain parts of Spaceballs I love the most.
Yeah.
And it's like it's very specific scenes, especially when he's like the why are you out of breath? I had to run. I ran all the way from the back of the ship. If I walked, the movie would be over.
Yeah.
And I love like those sort of moments in that. But there's even the idea of just like having Yogurt basically played by Mel Brooks, the Yoda character,
and just like go like all the merchandising. I was like, that's like one of those things. Like, yeah, it's a little.
I love it so much because I love I like. There's a line that I will always quote from Spaceballs, where it's Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
He will go, and it's him and John Candy, and they're in the they're Winnebago, they're Space Winnebago.
Oh yeah.
And they're about to go rescue rescue Princess Vespa, and they go, and Robert Paxton goes, "We're not just doing it. We're not just doing this for money." We're doing it for a shitload of money.
Yes.
And it's one of those quotes I will use.
Oh God, yes.
For for moments when people ask it's like why I keep selling DLC, and I'll try to find that clip and use that as like, we're not just doing this for money, we're doing it for a shitload of money.
Oh, it's so apt.
Because it's one of my like go-to quotes for everything. Whenever anyone asks, why are we doing the business thing? Like boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's that one. But like there are moments in that film that I like. But I'm like, if I think back of like the Brooks films I like now, or the Brooks productions I like now, like I could watch the movie version or the Broadway version of The Producers.
Oh yeah, week. I need to go watch that. I know there's like a lot of good scenes in it,
oh my God, because
it was Gene Wilder who was in it.
Yeah, the original one, but then they made a Broadway version with
Matthew Broderick and
I always get the other guy's name, Nathan Lane.
Nathan Lane, yeah.
And they're just like, Nathan Lane kills it.
Oh yeah, because there was like and man, we're like really strange for some of the reasons you brought me on.
Hey, look, this is 8-Bit Life. 8-Bit Life. If you haven't noticed this yet, we go wherever we go. The conversation goes a certain way, we roll with it.
But yeah, that was like the ones, like Nathan Lane. He actually had a show on CBS a long time ago where he was an opera singer.
Oh
which
shit,
he was
that's right.
Which he was kind of known for.
Well, I know Broderick began his life, his existence as a sort of a play performer.
Yeah,
and then somehow
he got into movies like Project X and all that.
And then Ferris Bueller happened, and then history is made.
Yeah, but no, like Nathan Lane. Like I watched some of it, was like I could see why he worked in the producers. I could see why Matthew Broderick worked.
Yeah, well, because that's why they know that style, and they played off each other perfectly. And it's one of my favorite Mel Brooks productions, just because it's Mel Brooks productions, just because it's so. Like, there are moments in that they're just like, I still laugh. I will still laugh at, even though I know it's coming. It's just like remember I told you when we get we're too deep. Yeah, we're in too deep.
Yeah.
And they both grab the bag and start like doing all like the blanket thing, because like that.
I was gonna say that was like one thing Mel Brooks was. Now that I really think about it, like Mel Brooks was honestly really good at was having good comedic pairings.
Yes.
Like Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder.
Yep.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. John Candy and Bill Paxton.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Even
oh man, I'm trying to remember.
I forget
not Tim.
Tim
he
Curry.
played Count the Money.
Because
he was on.
Because Jon Stewart was in there. Tim Curry was Tim Curry in
No. History of the World. Is what
oh God, I forget.
Because he was one of the main people in Carol Burnett with Tim Conway.
I forget it.
If I can remember his name.
I had to think about that, because I know.
Which everybody's wondering is like.
I know B. Arthur was on.
Yeah.
Because
she was the unemployment agent.
God, that's one
you,
of
did you bullshit?
Yeah.
Last
What was your what was your let's see, what profession? I'm a stand-up philosopher. I do whatever. A bullshit artist.
Yes.
Have you bullshit recently? So those great.
No. Did you try to bullshit?
Yes.
Yeah.
The delivery. You bullshit. Bullshit artist. So the reason I got
and Gregory Hines too. Yeah.
So the reason I got Robert on in the first place, and this is what's funny.
Besides talking about Mel Brooks.
Besides talking about Mel Brooks films, is as per usual on this show, I always have someone that's creative usually, or I have a friend on that's awesome. In this case, it's both. Robert Swackhamer here is, I guess if we're talking about your the side hustle, as we call it, like, you're a photographer.
I've been mostly focusing on that now.
Right. But the thing is, like, it's funny, I met you, and in terms of all the things, I had seen you, we looked upon this later, because years ago, Robert, I think maybe like, about, I'd like to say maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago or so, you messaged this picture, say, hey, is this one of your old business cards? And it was like, I had this old kind of card where I put on a like square kind of card, and I handed it out I'd let's say almost like the first South by, or maybe the second South by.
Yeah.
And it was
episode 9.
Yeah, it was basically a card I handed out with, like, here's some links to episodes you could listen to. And I guess I had because I'd seen you at every single music thing I went to, but we never talked, because it was never like there's never a reason to, and I always feel weird, like, hi, meet that.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't have been until, I don't know when we officially.
I was gonna say I'm trying to remember when we really kind of really realized.
Arctic Mule in the chat room is saying, "Holy hell! If it started, God's looking upon him. He's looking into photography too. So teach him." So we'll talk photography.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of that.
But
yeah, I'm trying to remember when we really kind of realized.
Because
wait a minute, we're actually in the same space.
Right, because it was always about, usually around, like, for those that I'm trying to explain, for a while, and he still kind of helps out. He would run this, help out this event called MagFest.
Yeah. For
lack of better words. It's a geek music festival, and that's a very, very broad overtone, just to kind of save time.
MAG is short for music and gaming.
Right. So we're talking about having artists not just in chiptunes and nerdcore, but you've had actual, like, video game composers hang around.
Oh yeah, like Alexander Brandon.
Right, Alexander Brandon, famous for Deus Ex, the Fragile Ones, and a couple of things like that.
I think like Grant Kirkhope and a few others. Yeah,
right. So and you've had some guests from other lineages.
Game Grumps.
Yep.
Oddly enough, we haven't had RTX yet, even though I know Jack is a big chiptunes fan.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Jack is. Well, Jack's the reason that a lot of the Rooster Teeth people even know about IOID.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
But anyways, beyond that, as life has kind of gone on, I've always seen you at all these events, but you're never doing like. At first, you're like, okay, we're gonna stream these for certain things, but then that kind of sort of fell down. And then I'd always see you with a camera. Like every one of these events, you're just shooting. Yeah,
that was kind of a weird thing for me. So just to kind of give my whole history.
Yeah, let's go for that.
The nerd piece here. So years ago, I was part of a podcast called Spankwagon.
It's a great name.
Great name. Yeah,
great name. There's so many connotations.
But it was actually started by a friend of mine I used to be friends with in Iowa a long ass time ago, where my nerd life really started. We used to play hide and seek with cars, using CB radios to find each other. I'm not making that up.
Wow, that's hardcore. Go on.
When you live in Iowa, you and you didn't drink yet.
You have to find something to do.
Exactly, because it was better than drugs. When Iowa was the meth capital of the world.
That's a great way of saying it too.
So anyway, so eventually, we all kind of split up, just moved, and so he moved to Vegas, and he started a podcast.
Spankwagon.
Yeah. And when I lived in Florida, I actually did some stuff with a friend of mine, just kind of like a side project that was attached to them.
Right.
And then when I moved here, and then eventually my friend Justin moved here, who was also from Iowa, who was part of the same group. We're like, hey, we're here in Austin, for fuck's sake.
Right.
Why don't we do something? And we started doing it. At the time, it was kind of more like pre-recorded stuff. And then we just go, and then we started doing live stuff. So,
okay. Yeah, because it's funny that every time I've ever saw you after that point, it was photography.
Yeah.
And then only until recently, and I say recently, but you've always kind of done photography on the side. Have I started seeing you like start doing like an actual presence to the point where you've spun up a website, you've done all the things?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Keyboard. So with that, when I got involved in MagFest, it was primarily video.
Right.
And then just out of randomness, I just decided to go to Nerdapalooza one year.
Okay, what the heck is Nerdapalooza?
So Nerdapalooza was an event that was kind of like MagFest, but it was run by a completely different group.
Okay.
But it was really more music focused. But it was very nerd heavy.
Right.
So I went, but it's like, well, I'm not going to do video, obviously, but I'm going to take my camera. And that's when I really kind of started getting interested in photography.
Okay.
And I was like, well, wait a minute, I like some of this. And then from there, the video thing kind of fell to the wayside for a number of reasons. But the photography bit I still loved, and it was kind of, people were kind of starting to see me more for that. So
yeah,
like, this is what I should do.
It's funny. People are saying I don't care, especially the guy on the right. Honestly, I was actually to be fully honest, people. It's funny. You get used to this doing. So let me pull a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You get used as a person who has to run both a board and you've run a board before, so you know this. Even though I'm running a virtual board.
Yeah.
You get used to being able to hear what the conversation is, which is about photography, how you got to Nerdapalooza, all that stuff. And to also spin up a chat room just in case, because we're starting to see new people, not because I don't trust you new people, you seem all awesome, but just in case somebody comes in that's a little bit unsavory.
Yeah.
That I have to start, because I don't have mods quite yet, so I gotta bring in the band Hammer Swackhamer.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was just waiting for Luis to show up actually. So he was the one. That's why I'm looking at this one as like wait a minute, is that him? Is that a different name?
People are realizing, okay, my bad. Sorry, my bad. It's okay. It's so funny because everyone always not to derail the story.
Yeah.
But why is it that when you have a laptop, you look totally like you're okay typing away whatever, and you might be looking at Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But if you're doing the same thing with a tablet or a phone, you look like you just don't give a shit. When did that? Even though now we're at a point where a smartphone is just as powerful as a damn laptop, and in the grand scheme of that kind of thing. Like if we're talking about gaming, whatever, fine, different story. We can have the argument.
I think part of it is because with a laptop, there's the whole open. It's a computer. You understand.
Yeah.
Where this, it's just you do nothing.
Right. It's so
such
weird.
a break in.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's such a weird thing because it's like that is just as effective, in the grand scheme of this.
Yeah.
All right, but going back, so So Nerdpalooza, all this stuff. Continue.
Yeah. So I got more interested in photography with that, and then so just to kind of loop back around to the whole media thing. So the way I got involved with MagFest pretty heavily was after I run down my old podcast because it's just like not enough viewers and shit like that. I had joined up with a website called 8BitX.
Oh yeah.
Very VGM, chiptune, nerdcore.
Yeah, 8BitX basically, like you said, covers all video game music stuff. Which then leads you to MagFest.
Right. So what had happened was I had joined them because like, hey, I still want to do stuff. I'll just do it with you guys. So 6 days before I leave for MagFest 11, I think.
Right.
Will calls me up, says, "Hey, do you have your video gear?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Why?" Yuzo Koshiro wants to stream his set.
Now, Yuzo Koshiro is
the composer for some of my favorite games: Streets of Rage, Revenge of Shinobi, Etrian Odyssey.
I think they also did ActRaiser,
yes.
Right. The only reason I say this is if you're on iTunes, all that I've recently found out all that music's on there now.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah, I found Streets of Rage. Yeah, I found Streets of Rage.
And he also did like Wong and Midnight. Some of my favorite
he did some amazing
compositions. So when he told me that and he asked me to bring my stuff, I'm like, yes.
It's like, well, yo, man, we want to cover this set. We're done. Let's do this.
And so what was the little bit that was amusing before this? Like MagFest as an organization hadn't really thought about streaming. They're just audio. They had like the only video bit was like internal.
Well, because I think only until now, especially as of late, have we thought about the idea of live streaming events.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I always had the mentality of the event is the event, and if you couldn't make it, too bad. Sorry for your thing. But now that we've kind of come to this point where live streaming is not just simply like because it's no longer about I'll put it this way. The experience will always be the experience, no matter what. It'll always be better live. That's just the six-sided word. But you got to promote somehow that this thing is happening, and you got to make it seem like people are missing out on something, and that's where live stream happens.
Well, and I think the one thing that got them was the ability of production quality, especially for as small as the group they were. So.
Right. So MagFest, live streaming, all that stuff. Flash forward to now, because MagFest, you still do the...
I'm still a department head for them.
Right, you're still doing stuff there. You're also doing a whole... At one point in time, this is how we I think, where we officially met.
Yeah.
Was at one point, I don't know if it happens anymore, but you started doing almost like MagFest, like, preview, or whatever. What you guys call it? Because it was...
we had the Game Over series.
Well, you had the Game Over series, but it was more of... You had done... And these would be like small events at like random bars here. But they would have some type of mag branding. I say mag branding as in like...
Well, Game Over was the only one, though.
Okay.
That was our not really a touring series. It was just more of...
That might have been what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we had people there and they had to set up and get the talent, we would just go for it. And it would be an official MagFest thing, so...
People are talking about the fact that are here. How does she feel about that? Shouldn't we be focused? I don't know. People are talking about stuff. Okay. It's funny. The chat room talking about all the stuff going down. I bring that up because Swackhamer has a crowd that he's bringing with him, and they all are different. But okay, going back to let's kind of get to now because even though you've now done a lot of music stuff, you've done photography you've now started branching out to doing like actual photography stuff. I say the actual mean like I flip on Facebook now and I see like a photo shoot with a cosplayer.
Yeah.
So how did you? I guess I'll ask this question because I've always wondered this, especially when it comes to shooting cosplay. Only because cosplay is sort of very not subjective thing, but very much a Stranger Things. How do you go about approaching that kind of a shot, especially for a client? Well, I say client meaning like it could be a friend,
just somebody you meet or whatever.
It's still a client in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. It kind of. I would say it just kind of depends on the character they want to present. Because I've had character, or like one of the people I've shot, Fee Cosplay. I met her because she was at a Fire Emblem shoot that a friend of mine wanted to go to. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go. What the hell?
A Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem, yes.
That's awesome.
There was actually a pretty sizable group. I was kind of
for sure.
So I was just like, I'll just do it. What the hell? And then her and I got talking, and and she's like, hey, I want to dress as another character tomorrow. You want to come shoot it? And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Sure.
And then just like the night before, like I just did some research and just kind of like got a little bit of an idea and then just like ran with it.
Yeah, because
it was just did some ideas, and then she did Kat from Gravity Rush. and got some ideas and just.
Yeah, no, because it's interesting just how you've. I mean, because you've always been photography. We're talking about that, but just like it's almost like you've figured out that's what I should be doing, and that.
Yeah.
So I and if anyone, by the way, we have now a full chat room with people. Anybody who has any questions about any kind of concepts, try to keep it clean because I know we're coming. I'd say clean meaning we do curse here, but.
Fuck is no longer a word; it's a comma.
People asking what you're drinking, though. What are you drinking, sir?
I'm drinking Hellas from Real Ale. I wanted something light since I do have to drive back home.
It's funny because I'm not much of a drinker, and if I ever have a guest that wants me to drink, I'll say, bring your own stuff because anything I'll buy, I'll be like, here, have this. What the fuck's this shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I just.
What was my comment about the Bud Light I got for free at South by or at DreamHack?
Fuck, what was it?
It's sex in a canoe beer. It's fucking too close to water.
That's what it was. That was one of the best lines. God, what was it with we'll go back to DreamHack in a bit, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's interesting just how you've kind of gone. So I guess I should ask you, especially when it comes to a photo shoot, even though you've just started doing this, you have done shots in terms of stuff. And I think this is a tip. And if anyone has any questions, again, ask. There's one thing that I've always been wondering because you do a lot of low light photography.
Yeah.
And I say low light meaning for those
concerts
and stuff like that. Yeah. How do you go about shooting a concert especially when it comes to flash?
Well, concerts, I don't use flash.
That's what I'm saying. How do you freaking do that then?
So, thankfully, with the camera I have now, it's a lot better about low light stuff. The camera I used to have before.
Arctic Mule in the chat room is saying you don't have to drive back home. Just keep drinking until you pass out on the stream.
This isn't MagFest. Come on.
And then Stanley says it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, I was going to say ST Fanboy was actually on my old podcast. So,
rock on.
Yeah,
okay.
That's Justin. Anyway, so thankfully now, with the camera I have, it's a little bit easier just by nature of the technology. With my old camera, I could still see, but it was still like I had to plan to what I knew the camera would and would not do.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So you had already kind of took it sort of as a test run, figure out where the limits were.
And then work to that.
Okay.
And then even with that, I still have a pretty heavy editing process. Not so much like I'm doing like a lot of work on the photos. I'm a lot more selective about what I choose.
I think this is also an important one because everyone talks about this, and I think this speaks to a gear question because a lot of people, when it comes to photography, always think the body matters when it does, but a lot of times it's more the lenses. But the question is, what camera do you use? And I say that with the idea of what camera did you use and what camera are you currently using?
So what I previously used was Canon Rebel T3i.
Right. That's the only reason I want to mention that because Rebel T3i is not the most, the Rebel series aren't the most expensive of cameras.
Exactly. Yeah, they're very they're like a little bit above entry level, right? So now I'm using a Canon or Fujifilm X-T2.
Oh damn. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, the X-T2 has been great for content stuff. Let me tell you, like the stuff I've been able to pull out of dark,
that's usually
dark
what
stuff.
Usually
that's
where the one. If I were to get a low light camera for video now, I have a GH3. If I were to get a better one, I'd get like the Sony Alpha, the Sony A7S.
Oh, I had almost went with that.
It's so fucking great low light. It's so insane low light.
Well, I was gonna say now one thing I do want to bring up, going to your comment about camera bodies and lenses.
Right.
So, and this is if you ever go talk to photographers, this is a very common comment you'll get. Like people say like, "Hey, your photos are so great. You must have a great camera." It's kind of like going up to an author. You're a great author. You must have a good typewriter.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
it's very much knowing. There's a little bit of learning your hardware, of course.
Right.
But also knowing how to use it.
And I think that's the point. Is that a lot of times, especially if you're just starting out, or if that's what you want to do, or that's sort of where you want to go, a lot of times you can, it's a lot less about what gear you have and more about how, like in the camera, how you frame a shot. Mm-hmm. Knowing this is the framing for that shot. Like the joke I always get from friends of mine when they want me to take a picture for them on their iPhone. I go, cool. And I kind of have an idea what I want to shoot really quickly. Like, wow, it's a great picture. I was like, oh, thank you. But not because I'm just using an iPhone camera and I'm making sure it's a framed a certain way so you guys are in the shot.
It's really putting thought into what you're shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially because, again, on the only times you ever really need to worry about, like how many lenses do you typically bring with you to?
Oh, just one.
Just one. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mostly because I just bought into the system and I need to get others. I need to get a zoom and a prime.
Okay.
Or a longer zoom and a prime. But no, it's knowing how to use. Like I said, it goes back to knowing your hardware, knowing how to use it, and apply it to what you're doing.
Right. Because, like, how long do you think it took you to get into the point now where you're comfortable saying, let me do some actual shoots?
I had actually been wanting to do that for a couple years, but life got in the way. So it's like, well, wait a minute, let me get through all this, and then now I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I'm okay in my my life right now. I feel good about how I do stuff. I now feel comfortable going to ask people, hey, do you want to do this?
Yeah,
do it in this manner.
Because that's got to be the weirder part to approach it. And people in the chat room saying, to me, photography, point their cameras at something and take a picture. Maybe there are some settings here and there, but lucky moment should not be called. But click a button, lucky moment should not be called skill. And I think that's kind of
there. Actually, there was a video I'd watched actually not terribly long ago, kind of along those lines, where they actually talked about the definition of photographer, and there was actually Urban Dictionary had a great definition about photographer,
right?
Because doing that, you took a photo.
Yeah. Being
a photographer is knowing what you're doing.
And I think that's the difference. Is that taking a picture is one thing. Photography, especially when it comes to a shoot, and we mentioned that, it's not simply just the shot.
Yeah.
Like you're mentioning, it's if you start getting into the higher level of things, it's, oh, you took the picture, cool. Well, now you take it back, and now you got to actually go, okay, well, this is kind of a little too bright. Let me pull down the heat, the saturation. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me edit this. Yeah, not even photoshopping things. Not even like getting rid of blemishes or stuff. We're talking about just the basics.
General adjustment.
Just basic general adjustment.
I mean, you did that in film.
Yeah.
With dodging and burning and exposing the paper for
yeah
something. That was my high school years.
Right, and then it becomes the idea of we start talking about other kinds of photography stuff, like time-lapse photography and all these things that seem to be
astrophotography and stuff. I've got a friend who does some amazing astrophotography.
Oh, wow.
It's insane.
Well, because and we talk about tilt shift and all that kind of stuff, and so I think a lot of it is, yes, clicking and taking the moment is also part of it, but it's also kind of knowing, especially when it comes like if you're doing journalistic photography versus a shoot, and for those who don't know, Robert tends to do more, I guess, model photography. We're gonna say as a concept.
Yeah.
When it comes to doing journalistic photography, it really is. I say that's a skill, not because you click the moment at the right thing. It's like, no, you click the moment at the right thing while gunfire is going out, or while the world is dying around you, because you.
Well, right, and it's kind of like event coverage. It's and I'd said a while back that it's really representing who was there,
right? What's happening? How what is the energy of this event and what's important? And so. And I think a lot of people, will say, well, it's just taking a picture. It's just clicking. And no, yes, there are things that can help you with it. Burst photography, you can kind of sort through them, whatever. But it's knowing.
Which I use heavily in concert stuff.
And a lot of people do. And that's totally fine. Sports photographers do this all the time. It's totally, utterly fine. It's the idea of knowing, of being able to separate yourself from this.
Yeah.
And sort of put yourself in a. And that's why I never bother them. I have so many photographer friends that do it. Whenever they're working, I go, cool. I'll talk with you when it's in between sets or when something's happening. So it's like, cool. Now we can have a chat because I know you're not on the clock.
Yeah.
Because again, it is hitting a button and getting that moment, but it is knowing that's the moment.
And it's very
and being comfortable saying that's not the moment and throwing that picture away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it's very much paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of thing.
It takes a lot.
People are saying, what do you recommend for startup gear? What was your first rig? I mean, obviously, photo wise, we go back to the
T3i.
It was funny how many people. I want to say this really quick because we're talking about photography.
Yeah,
I saw at least 5 people have fucking Polaroids at RTX.
That's
like the small micro.
Well,
Polaroid.
yeah, that's like a thing that's coming back.
I'm amazed. I'm scared.
Well, which is really funny because, not necessarily because, Fuji. Oddly enough, actually, they have a printer that my camera will connect to,
right?
Over Wi-Fi.
Oh, interesting.
That actually prints Polaroid-style film.
Huh.
So if I wanted to, I could give if I had one of those printers at a show,
that would be, okay.
I could give people pictures
right
away.
That's kind of cool. That's that. And they're also asking, you have any tips for starting up in photography? How do you get noticed and put yourself out there? So let's start with the startup gear. What was your
first? For starting up, you just this is not just for photo, but also for video.
Right.
True. Just go out and do. That was it. Just go out and do.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, it sounds silly, but like, if you're just learning how to frame stuff, how to take stuff, bust out your smartphone. And it sounds ridiculous because it's not gonna give you like photo qualities you're going to print.
Right. Yeah.
But it's learning the idea of like I said, we're talking about the skill isn't so much hitting the button. It's the composition.
Right.
It's knowing how to frame something.
Even if you just have a smartphone, just as long as you put thought into what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're stepping forward. That's the whole thing, and that's
why. Like, once you kind of get to that point, and once you're comfortable, then you can start looking into DSLR or mirrorless cameras, and they all have their pluses and minuses, and it all depends on kind of what you're doing. Like for example, if you're a photographer, sometimes having full frames way better, so you want to get kind of Canon sort of thing. If you're like me in video, you can kind of get away with a Micro Four Thirds sort of format. All those are different in terms of that, but the big kickers are first and foremost when it comes to photography. One, don't spend a whole lot of money at the get-go.
Yeah, you don't have. You absolutely do not have to drop.
And two,
2K or whatever.
learn. Figure out things like that. Also, look at other photographers, other big ones, and see like how they've shot certain things. And especially, like looking through an art book of photographs and just saying like, wow, that's a great shot.
Oh yeah.
And figure out why that's why it is you like it on a technical level. Analyze it. Stare at it a bit more. Don't go like, oh, it's a pretty picture. You're like, okay, well I see this, that.
Like what made what was the thought? Try to
if
get
it's
to the
if
thought
it's a
process,
if it's a location in the world, pull up street maps and try to go there really because we're kind of modern world and see what that looks like in sort of that way and rotate around and go like, oh, I see why they did the shot. And you can see around there and sort of get an idea just why someone framed a shot the way they did.
Yeah.
But more importantly is how do you when it comes to starting up photography, like how did you get to the point where you started putting yourself out there talking to especially cosplayers, just because it's like, hi, I'm photographer, you pretty woman, can I picture? I'm not saying like that. There are people like that.
I've seen people do
that.
There
are people like that.
Yeah.
Not to say it in bad ways. That is.
I think it was just more for me because I'm not one of those. And actually, I'm going to take a step back there because because I actually had a conversation with an online friend about this, about how con photography has become such a thing.
Yeah,
because it's just like there's something about it just like, oh, all these cosplayers, oh, I'll get noticed. I hate that shit, honestly. I swear to God, if I see the gazebo from the Gaylord National Harbor in a shot one more goddamn time, and I've shot in that gazebo, so for me to say that means something. But no, it's more for me. It was more like, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, we'll do some shoots. We'll do some photos now. It's fun, whatever. But let's collaborate.
Okay.
Like build ideas together.
So the idea being that when you want to shoot something, especially when it comes to sort of cosplay stuff like that, go in there, take some shots there, but try to, and I guess that's the idea is that the con is almost like the, you approach them, you build up. It sounds like the way to do it is almost like you would with anybody in the real world. Is you kind of build up a repertoire. You talk to somebody, you have a conversation with them, because it's not like this photos, thank you, and then walk away. Because if you cover an event, different story, then you can take whatever. But if your mission is to sort of get more into doing that work, either for any models, because even though cosplay people do it all the time, it's the idea like, hey, my friend needs a photo shoot for blah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I need a photo shoot for blah. It's not really a model thing, but I need it for my my portfolio. Because what happens is a lot of cosplay photography is very equivalent, if not similar, to model work.
Yeah, very.
And there's a lot of models out there that need to have their headshots.
Exactly.
And and again, it sounds like what I want to do this. That's totally cool. But again, at the same time, it's like I got to pay my bills, or I got to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And having that, I like the idea of you saying collaborate, which is the idea that let's figure out what what we want together, and then kind of we're both creatives. Obviously, a person as a cosplayer is very creative because they thought to come and create their costume and dress up as I am. I'm trying to think of a character really quickly.
I was just thinking like when I worked with Ali Bell on Azura from Fire Emblem.
Right.
I was just like, well, wait a minute. She's kind of her character's always around water. Let's do something with that. And thankfully we got lucky and was able to find a location and just do some very creative things with it.
Yeah,
and I think that's standing in the middle of the water.
And I think that's the idea is get creative, is get to the point where where you're doing something like you mentioned the whole thing. If I see another shot with the gazebos, because everyone does the gazebo, everyone does these sort of things. If you can find that like less populated area at a convention, or just something like, you know what, let's go to, like, where are you staying? I'm staying at this hotel. Do you want to do a photo shoot like near the pool? You know, and obviously, you know, if makes him happy, so can I bring a friend? Like, yeah, totally, you know, whatever. If you feel safe because you're
definitely. Like when I first met Fee, it was at this past IckyCon, and when she told me she wanted to do Tharja and Cat, well, I went around and said like, well, where's everybody not shooting?
Right.
In Tharja, we found a great place, and it was at night, and it lent to the character so well. With Cat, because, you know, it's very a 3D game.
Right.
It's all about space and gravity and such. Because it was kind of office buildings, we found just great settings, and it spoke to that.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I'm not shooting in the damn lobby.
And I think that's the other thing that, you know, when we talk about the skill and of photography, we keep talking about composition, is that a lot of it is looking at your world and seeing what's around you. Like you said, pay attention. You know, that's what a good photographer does, is pay its attention to things. That doesn't necessarily mean like, you know, zooming in on the concert. That means looking around saying, you know, that would be a kind of a cool shot here.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool kind of thing if you capture that sort of lighting thing or whatever, and have it at the golden hour and say like, that would be the place.
Yep.
And that's again even the idea of like a character. Like, you're like, well, I don't know what this character is. Let me look at it really quickly.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and you get an idea of like what the character does, or the shots in the game or anime or comic. Cool. And you can propose, what about this sort of thing? Like, yeah, that'd be cool. And the artist and the creator, the cosplayer in that case, feels like they're part of it. People are asking if you had to pick one photo as your favorite photo ever taken by anyone, not yourself,
right?
Like a photo that for me, I'll say this is a journalistic photo that I think is one of the moments that made me realize I could never be a journalistic photographer and less. It's an older photo, and I forget who did it. But it's everyone parodies it. Everyone parodies it. But it's the Vietnam photo.
Oh yeah. I forget who took the photo. I know the one you're talking about.
But it's very
iconic.
It's iconic, and it's one of my. It's that haunting photo. Just like, that was the Vietnam War, and I'm just like, shit, fuck war. But yeah, what about you? If you have one,
I don't really know. I was gonna say for me, and this is maybe one of the, saying I'm a photographer, and I will admit this is one of the things I'm bad about, is my experience with the art history isn't that great.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to photography. So, but I've been trying to fix that.
Right.
So,
and that's okay. A lot of, and that's not that you have to do, but it's sometimes. I mean, again, photography is such this thing, but I think like. Because a lot of the shots we think that are iconic are journalism shots. Which is not to say they're not composed. I mean, again, there's some shots that are like haunting from war and stuff like that, which I think is that. Artemio chat room says his personal favorite is "Kiss of Life" with an electrician. We could look it up later and kind of have an idea, but yeah, it's interesting how all of that works in, and the reason I bring up kind of convention cosplays is just because it's something that both yours and I's audience would know, and myself, and that is just, because everyone sees these cosplay pictures and wonder how the hell they frame it, how the hell they do that. But because usually it's like, let's get all the Deadpools together, which is
exactly.
not bad. It's still funny and cool.
Well, and also like the other thing I've kind of come to see is people going to try to get those big names. Yeah. And I'm not going to go into them, but if you follow cosplay, you know. Right. But even they just like to get the social media pop. Right.
But even they also, like, when it comes to the like even like a Meg Turney, when she does her cosplay, she will, or her photo layout for something. Yeah. It's never like at the lobby of a thing. It's she gets she does a real honest to God photography shoot. I think she had done one. She went to Japan. With one of her friends, Ryan Haywood, and they had done
because I remember there was one where they did Elizabeth and from
Booker,
BioShock
and Booker, Elizabeth and Booker from BioShock, and I was like, that's a photo shoot that required
that's
thinking shit out.
Exactly.
It wasn't like they're both cosplaying at random points. Like, no, I want to cosplay as Elizabeth. Hey Ryan, you'd make a really good Booker. Would you want to do that? So, yeah, totally. And they got a photographer that again, a person that goes and says, what are you looking to have? Okay, let me look around. All right, this would be a great shot. I think this would be a good one. This would be a cool environment.
Who did photograph?
I forgot. I'll look it up.
It's not John Reisinger, was it?
No, somebody else.
Because I know he's done other stuff.
Yeah, it was somebody else. But the point being is those are the things that you do as a photographer.
Yeah.
It's you have a client, and I say client as in like this overarching
who you're working
working with, whether it be a cosplayer, whether it be a model. Cosplayers are models in the grand scheme of things, and it's the idea of how do you make this person shine.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever that person is, and if they're cosplaying as something, cool, because that's all those skills go into it, and it's whether or not it's how you do that, and that's always why I've liked about your photography, especially recently. I'm just like, wow, those are great composed shots. Those are amazing things, because you could just and just kind of pissed off, but you've actually the gallery show that's like this guy thought of how to do it, because I rarely see photos at a pool like that are cosplay. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And I can tell. Okay, I know it's a
or
pool.
if they're not swimsuit stuff. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And it's just like, that's kind of cool. That's interesting. I like the reflection of the water. And again, even something as simple as when it comes to photo shoots, like let's look what's an Airbnb and see if there's any kind of properties to rent for the day.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't yes, it costs money or whatever, but you're getting paid to do it. And it's part of the part of the package or whatever.
Or sometimes you just get lucky and you just run into something, like when I did the whole shoot with the Fighting 7088th. The place we did it, the American Undersea Warfare Center in Galveston, they contacted them.
Oh wow.
And one of the guys who's with the group, I had worked with him on a video years ago.
Right.
And he's like, "Hey, would you be like? He was like, "What are you doing next weekend?" I was like, "I don't know yet. Why? What's up?" He's like, "You want to do a photo shoot?" I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, totally. Why not?
He's like,
"Fuck it."
"Hey, G.I. Joe." I'm like, "All right." on a destroyer and a submarine that served in World War II.
Holy shit.
I'm like, I am so fucking eager, okay? Because how do you write?
How do you? Yeah, exactly. Like that's the cartoon. That's the movie.
Yeah,
that's the Hollywood shot.
Yeah, it's just like, of course I have to.
Right? Why wouldn't you?
Because who the hell else is doing it?
Right. That's sort of the thing, is that a lot of those things, like you mentioned, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But it's the idea of somebody put thought into this, and it sounds like the other guys like, we put thought in this, and like, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was just like, I can't pass that up.
And I think that's where, I think that's sort of when the level, we talk about people trying to get into this. I think that's when the level, when you cross over, is that you put thought into this.
And there's always that constant discussion of, when are you a pro photographer? And everybody links it to money, which isn't always necessarily the case.
Right.
So.
And I think it's that you got paid in some form or fashion. Not necessarily experience. Experience, not the thing, but you get paid in, like, I will comp you a badge. I will give you X, Y, or Z.
Or you had this thing where you could say nobody else did this.
Right. And I said,
G.I. Joe and Cobra.
And I think you start to cross over really into more than just a hobby photographer.
Yeah.
When you start to think, how do I shoot this? Not should I shoot this? Not should I take pictures of birds or whatever.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's not great. You can and do nature photography, but it's the idea of, how would I go about shooting a bird that's going to fly away at this? What things would I need? What kind of lenses would I need? How would I approach this? The idea of, like, where do I take this subject to take pictures of it?
And I was going to say, and with nature photography, even though I personally don't do this, but I follow some people who do.
Right.
There's also that, you got to have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Which is another, and especially when you're on a long day of shooting, especially like this last weekend when I was in hot Texas sun, you don't let it get to you.
Yeah.
You have to think through that you're both working towards something.
Yeah, I think that's the important idea, is that you pay attention, you take patience, but more importantly, you think about, this is a craft. I know some people in the chat room don't think so, or it sounded like that, but I don't. But it is a craft. It is. Yeah. It is. If done right, you can look and say, like, that is an amazing shot.
Oh yeah.
That is an amazing model thing. That's an amazing shoot because what will happen is, especially with a cosplayer or model, is you'll present them with it like, wow, this is great. You know, and then a friend of theirs will say like, you know, that's a great pictures. Who took that? Oh, Robert Swackhamer. Here, let me give you his contact info, especially if you want to get something shot. And then you'll get a call from someone that says, hey, so I was looking at Wild Blast pictures and you did some great jobs. I'd love to get blah, 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 this picture. And it just gets the right one. And then eventually, and it could be just someone's like, who's a friend of theirs who happens to do model shoots or whatever. Or just wants like, you know, I need some shots for my social media page or my about page and stuff like that. It's like, well, this guy's a good photographer. Let's see if he'd be interested. And you talk like, yeah, totally. And it doesn't have to be this like I'm doing, you know, the World of Warcraft cover. Like you're not. It doesn't have to be that. It can be just something as simple as.
Well, yeah, and that was my thing. I made a post about this not too long ago where my big thing was for anybody starting out, don't think you have to go chase for the big names.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing nerd
stuff,
connected stuff.
Right.
There's so much talent that's out there.
Yes.
That go find them.
Yeah.
And one, not only will you learn, but you help them.
Yes, and that's sort of that's sort of the kicker is that at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to a portfolio for yourself, if you're a photographer getting into that, having more is great.
Oh yeah.
Having variety is better.
And I was gonna say, and as far as trying to present yourself as a photographer, be very, very critical about what you're presenting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a blog and just say, "Hey, I did this. This is cool, whatever." But when people go to land,
like when it comes
put
to
your
best
absolute
work.
best work,
and by taking a variety of things, it shows off. Okay, this guy knows how to, and especially when it comes. I mean, the geek thing, it's cosplay, whatever. But even beyond that, it shows like, okay, this is a real photographer, a working photographer. Because again, working photographer. I think the big difference between a working photographer and a professional photographer and just a hobby one is a hobby person who's just like, it's fun, cool. A pro photographer would say like, okay, what is going to get me the next paycheck? Not because that's all that matters. It's because at the end of the day, you got to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to. How else you get paid for that fine beverage you have in your hands?
Yeah, for the all of $9.50 I paid for it because I bought it at the gas station.
Robert, always a pleasure to have you on. We've hit the hour mark.
Oh yeah.
Let's say people want to actually look at photography. Maybe there's cosplayers out there right now who are like, I want to hire this guy.
So the best way to get to me is rsproductions.us. I do have Instagram and Flickr. You can actually get to all of those accounts via the website. Have nice little social media icons. And I also run a blog on there. Not only do I cover some of the work I've been working on, I also do articles about artistic process and how I do things and stuff like that.
It's got to give an idea.
I like teaching people.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 there in the chat rooms and the Twitters and everywhere else in between. If you want to catch previous episodes of the podcast, you can go to our website, CosmicRadio.TV /8BitLife. There you'll find links to show notes, previous episodes as mentioned. And of course, after you've kind of bought all the cool stuff, head over to patreon.com /8BitLife and help this podcast become bigger, better, and more awesomer. And of course, if you're watching on Twitch, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching elsewhere in there, hit the subscribe button, follow button, whatever button's near you, hit that approval button, please.
Button.
So that is it for today. See you next time. Talking nothing geek about something completely and utterly random. Bye, people.